The sound of the doors gliding open echoed throughout the upscale boutique, a place where every inch gleamed with wealth. This wasn't just a store, it was a display of opulence. The marble floors shimmered, polished to perfection, reflecting the designer labels that lined the shelves. Soft, classical music played overhead, almost too quiet to hear, setting a serene atmosphere for the wealthy patrons who often graced this luxurious space. But today, it was about to be disturbed. Tyler Stone walked in, his confidence obvious with every step. His shoes, perfectly polished leather, clicked sharply against the cold marble, making a distinct sound that anyone within earshot would know. This was a man who commanded attention. His white button-up shirt was crisp, the fabric hugging his frame, the collar sharp. A gold watch on his wrist gleamed under the soft lights, and the tailored fit of his designer jeans suggested he wasn't here for anything ordinary. Tyler took a deep breath, taking in the familiar scent of new leather and fine materials, and flashed a smirk. This was his playground. He was used to being the center of attention, used to the stares, the whispers, and the unspoken admiration from those around him. But today, his eyes locked onto something that made him pause for a split second. There, standing near a display of leather bags, was a man dressed in simple jeans, sneakers, and a jacket that had clearly seen better days. Tyler cocked his head slightly, raising an eyebrow. The guy didn't look like he belonged here. Was he lost? A part of him almost felt embarrassed for the man. "Jake, look at this guy," Tyler muttered, leaning toward his friend who was casually flipping through a magazine nearby. Is he really here to buy something, or is he just wandering through, hoping no one notices? Jake, catching the tone of Tyler's voice, glanced over with a raised brow. His eyes widened slightly as recognition hit. "Wait, that's Keanu Reeves," Jake said, as if reading from some kind of VIP list. "Yeah, the actor. You know, from The Matrix?" Tyler's lips curled into a smirk. "Oh, I know who he is. But seriously? What's he doing in here? He looks like he just walked off a movie set and forgot to put on the glamour. He probably thinks this is some kind of budget store." Tyler let out a low, sarcastic chuckle, and without missing a beat, he moved toward Keanu, his friends following close behind. There was no doubt in his mind that Keanu wasn't the type to shop in a high-end boutique like this, at least not without looking the part. As he got closer, Tyler's eyes scanned the racks of pricey leather goods, his grin widening as he saw the perfect opportunity to make a scene. With a flick of his wrist, Tyler cleared his throat, then said loudly enough for everyone in the store to hear, "Hey, are you sure you can afford that?" He gestured to the leather bag Keanu was holding, his voice dripping with mockery. "I don't think they take coupons here, buddy." The quiet chatter that had filled the boutique came to a sudden halt. A few heads turned, and a store employee shifted uncomfortably from behind the counter, but Tyler was oblivious to the tension. He leaned casually against the nearest display, his eyes never leaving Keanu's face, and let out a loud, exaggerated laugh. Keanu turned, his expression calm and unfazed, as if the comment hadn't even landed. He looked at Tyler for a long moment, his eyes steady. There was no anger, no offense, just a quiet composure that, for some reason, only made Tyler feel a little unsure. "I think you're mistaken," Keanu said, his voice low but clear, with a slight edge of amusement. "I'm just browsing." Tyler raised an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed. "Right, just browsing," he repeated, then chuckled, glancing at his friends. "You sure you're not looking for the discount rack?" Jake, trying to suppress a laugh, exchanged a glance with the other friends who were quietly enjoying the show. Tyler was in full mockery mode now, comfortable in his own superiority. The whole store could see it. The young, rich kid belittling the well-known actor. The crowd seemed to hold their breath, wondering what would happen next. Keanu, however, didn't flinch. He simply turned back to the display, unfazed, as though Tyler's taunt hadn't even hit the mark. But Tyler wasn't ready to let it slide so easily. He wanted to push, to keep the joke going. He leaned in closer. "Look, buddy," Tyler continued, his voice carrying a little more weight this time. "You're clearly not cut out for this place. Maybe you should head back to where you came from." The words hung in the air, and for a split second, Tyler thought he might have gone too far. But when he looked around, the other customers seemed to be nervously eyeing the situation, unsure whether to intervene or stay out of it. Keanu glanced up at him again, still calm, but this time with a hint of something more. He wasn't angry. He wasn't offended. He was patient. And Tyler, for the first time in a long while, wasn't sure what to do with that. With a faint smile, Keanu shrugged slightly. "Well, it seems you're mistaken about a lot of things," he said, his tone casual, but his words cutting through the tension in the air. "But you'll figure it out." Before Tyler could respond, Keanu turned and walked toward the sales associate, who was now standing in the back, seemingly frozen in place. Tyler blinked, momentarily thrown off by how effortlessly the actor had defused the situation. Then, something strange happened. Tyler's phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out to check, expecting a message from one of his friends or maybe another distraction. But the screen was filled with notifications. His Instagram feed had exploded. Pictures, videos, and there, at the top, was a short clip someone had posted of him. The moment he mocked Keanu, Tyler's stomach dropped. And that was when he realized this wasn't going to be just another day of showing off. This was going to be something much bigger than he ever expected. Tyler Stone was a man who had always lived in the shadow of his own wealth. From the moment he was born into the lap of luxury, the world had catered to his every whim. He was used to getting what he wanted, no questions asked. His family's money had opened doors for him that most people could only dream of. But for Tyler, those doors weren't about opportunities. They were about control. And he wielded that control with arrogance. Growing up in a mansion on the outskirts of Los Angeles, Tyler's life was a parade of high-end cars, private tutors, and an endless array of friends who were as eager to bask in his wealth as he was to flaunt it. Money was no object. In fact, it was the object. It was the reason he was respected, the reason people sought him out, the reason he never had to try too hard. Tyler never knew the struggle that most people faced. He never had to wonder if he would make rent or how he would pay his bills. Those concerns were for others, not him. At school, Tyler had always been the popular kid, the one who wore the most expensive clothes, threw the biggest parties, and had the best connections. He walked into any room and immediately became the center of attention. But none of it was real. He wasn't surrounded by true friends, just people who wanted a taste of the life he led. They adored him because they adored what he could give them. Yet Tyler didn't care. He loved being admired, loved the way his wealth turned heads, and most of all, he loved feeling superior. But even with all the luxuries in the world, there was something missing. The constant adoration, the lavish gifts, and the endless privileges had made Tyler hollow inside. He hadn't ever considered what true happiness or friendship meant. To him, relationships were transactional. His family was distant, his friends were fleeting, and any love he had was either forced or superficial. Yet Tyler never allowed himself to feel the emptiness. It was easier to drown it out with more. More parties, more toys, more of everything. There was only one person who had ever tried to break through the wall Tyler had built around himself. His older brother, Marcus. Marcus was everything Tyler was not, grounded, humble, and actually worked for his success. He had tried to teach Tyler some life lessons, but Tyler had always dismissed him. He was the younger brother. After all, what could Marcus possibly know that Tyler didn't? "Ty, you have no idea how lucky you are," Marcus had told him countless times over the years. "You don't need to keep proving it to the world. People will respect you for who you are, not what you have." Tyler had always rolled his eyes at that, scoffing. "Yeah, sure. People respect me because they want something from me. It's the way the world works." But Marcus had always insisted that true respect came from something deeper, something beyond wealth and influence. And Tyler had never understood what Marcus meant. Not until recently. And certainly not until that moment in the luxury boutique. The day had started like any other, with Tyler waking up in his penthouse apartment, surrounded by more designer clothes and gadgets than most people would see in a lifetime. He had spent the morning texting his friends, setting up a brunch at an exclusive cafe, and planning his next trip to Vegas. Life was a game to him, and he was always winning. But the encounter with Keanu had left an unexpected mark. Tyler sat in his sleek, black sports car, the engine rumbling beneath him, but his mind wasn't on the road ahead. He kept replaying the moment over and over in his head. Keanu had shrugged off his insult with ease, almost as if it didn't matter. It shouldn't have bothered Tyler. After all, he had dealt with worse. People who disrespected him, other rich kids who tried to compete with him, even strangers who mistook him for a simple, spoiled brat. But Keanu's response had been different. It was measured, calm, and wise. Why didn't he fight back? Tyler wondered. Most people would have. Most people would have thrown some snarky remark back at him, or even called him out in front of everyone. But Keanu hadn't. He just moved on, almost like he didn't have time to care about Tyler's childish taunts. Tyler had made fun of Keanu because, well, he could. It was second nature for him, mocking people he considered beneath him. But now, in the quiet moments of his car, as the city buzzed around him, he couldn't help but feel like something was off. For the first time in years, Tyler didn't feel in control. Later that evening, Tyler sat at a luxurious rooftop bar overlooking the city skyline. His friends were around him, laughing, but Tyler was quieter than usual. His phone buzzed with messages from his Instagram account, full of likes, comments, and direct messages. Someone had uploaded a clip from the boutique, and it was going viral. People were tagging him, calling him out for his behavior, mocking him just like he had mocked Keanu. A wave of embarrassment hit him, but he quickly dismissed it. Who cares? He thought. I'm rich, I'm famous. This will blow over. But a small voice in the back of his head nagged at him. What if this was the moment that changed everything? What if he wasn't as untouchable as he thought? As the night wore on, Tyler found himself growing distant from the conversation around him. He looked at the people who laughed at his jokes, clinked glasses with him, and complimented his wealth. But it all felt empty, hollow. These weren't real connections. They were transactions, just like everything else in his life. His friends didn't care about him. They cared about what he could give them. They cared about his money, his status. And now, they were starting to mock him just as easily as he had mocked Keanu. Tyler pulled his phone out again and stared at the video. The comment section was flooded with messages from people who had never been a part of his world. People who had no idea what it was like to live in luxury. People who had worked hard for everything they had. They'll never understand, Tyler thought bitterly. But as he scrolled through the comments, something shifted. There was a part of him that knew he had crossed a line. That maybe, just maybe, this time, it wasn't just about what he could buy or how he could make people laugh. It was about something deeper. But what was that something? And why did he feel so unsettled? Tyler put his phone down and gazed out at the glittering city, wondering if he would ever figure it out. Something about that brief interaction with Keanu, something about the way the actor had handled the situation with such grace, kept echoing in his mind. Tyler had always thought that power came from wealth. But Keanu's quiet confidence had suggested otherwise. Was he missing something? Tyler wondered. The following days felt strange to Tyler. Every time he caught sight of his phone or checked his social media, the moment in the boutique replayed in his mind. It wasn't the video going viral that bothered him. In fact, it was kind of hilarious to see the online world mock him. But there was something else, something deeper. A feeling that wouldn't let him go. His friends had laughed it off, calling him the king of shade, and teasing him for getting the best reaction out of the actor. But deep down, Tyler wasn't laughing. He didn't know why, but a small part of him felt a shift, a crack in the armor he had spent his whole life building. For once, he wasn't just the guy who had everything. He was the guy who had been seen for who he really was. That night, as Tyler lay in bed staring at the ceiling, he couldn't stop thinking about Keanu. The actor's calm demeanor, his unflinching response. It was so different from anything Tyler had ever experienced. In a world where everyone was quick to react, quick to fight back, Keanu had just been. And that unsettled Tyler in a way he couldn't explain. By the time the weekend came, Tyler found himself unable to shake the feeling. He had been to countless parties, surrounded by people, but everything felt hollow. There was no joy in the loud music, no satisfaction in the luxury of expensive cocktails and perfect company. He couldn't shake the thought of what it meant to have real connection. And that thought gnawed at him. Was this it? Was this all there was? It wasn't until he found himself standing in front of the luxury boutique once again that things really started to change. He hadn't planned it. It wasn't a conscious decision. One minute he was driving with no particular destination in mind, and the next, he was parking in front of the same high-end store where the encounter had taken place. It was almost like something was pulling him back. Tyler hesitated as he stepped out of his car, a strange feeling settling in his chest. His fingers brushed the handle of the door as he glanced around. The boutique was bustling with people inside, and the usual extravagant displays of designer brands stood proudly in their place. But Tyler didn't feel the usual rush of excitement he typically got when entering such a space. Instead, he felt an odd sense of discomfort. Pushing through the door, Tyler was met by the familiar scent of fine leather and polished wood. The faint clink of the cash register and quiet chatter filled the air, but something about it felt off. He wasn't sure if he was here for the right reasons. What was he even looking for? As he walked further into the store, his eyes scanned the racks of designer bags and jackets, but his mind wasn't really focused on any of it. His thoughts were elsewhere. They were on Keanu, on the way the actor had reacted when Tyler tried to humiliate him. He had just brushed it off, like Tyler's words didn't even matter. Tyler, for the first time, wondered if he had been wrong. Tyler turned a corner and found himself face to face with the same salesperson who had been there the last time. The young woman recognized him immediately, but there was something different in her expression today, something that wasn't there before. She smiled politely, but her gaze was different. It wasn't the usual adoring look that most people gave him. This time, it was more distant, respectful, but still, there was a hint of something else. Maybe it's just me, Tyler thought. Maybe I'm just reading too much into it. But then, something unexpected happened. As Tyler was about to leave the boutique, a voice stopped him in his tracks. "Are you going to make fun of me again?" Tyler turned quickly, his heart skipping a beat. Standing in the center of the room, looking relaxed and entirely unbothered, was Keanu. His gaze met Tyler's, and this time, there was no sarcasm or edge. It was a calm, almost knowing look, like he could see straight through Tyler. Tyler opened his mouth, but no words came out. He wasn't sure what to say. He had come here to do something, to maybe confront the strange feeling inside him, but he hadn't expected to be face to face with Keanu again. Keanu, however, didn't wait for Tyler to speak. He took a slow step forward, almost like he was in no rush, and spoke with that same quiet confidence that Tyler couldn't shake from his mind. "You know, it's a shame," Keanu said softly, his voice like a calm breeze. "I saw the video. You have a lot of people who think you're funny, but I think you're better than that. It's not the kind of humor that'll get you far. Sure, it's easy to mock others, but I don't think it's going to help you find what you're really looking for." Tyler blinked, completely caught off guard. No one had ever spoken to him like that before. Not so matter-of-fact, not so calm. There was no anger in Keanu's words, just a kind of quiet disappointment. Tyler opened his mouth again, but this time, his voice caught in his throat. He wanted to argue. He wanted to tell Keanu he was just playing around, that it was all in good fun. But for some reason, the words didn't come. He was no longer sure of himself, no longer sure of the life he had built around him. Keanu tilted his head, almost as though he could sense Tyler's inner struggle. "I'm not here to tell you what to do," he continued, "but if you really want to be respected, if you want to be seen for who you truly are, you've got to stop playing games. The world can see through it." Tyler was silent for a long moment, absorbing Keanu's words. And then, without saying another word, Keanu turned and walked toward the door, leaving Tyler standing there, stunned. For the first time in his life, Tyler wasn't sure what to do next. The walls that he had spent years building around himself suddenly felt fragile, like they could crumble at any moment. And just like that, Tyler realized he didn't need more clothes, more money, or more validation. He needed something deeper, something real. As Keanu stepped out of the store and disappeared into the bustling streets of Los Angeles, Tyler stood frozen, a feeling of uncertainty swirling inside him. For the first time, he wondered what his life would look like without the mask he had worn for so long. The following week was a blur. Tyler couldn't shake the conversation with Keanu from his mind. Everything felt different, like he was suddenly seeing the world through a new lens. For the first time in his life, he wasn't sure of everything around him. The certainty that had once defined his every decision, the belief that money and status were the ultimate goals, was starting to crumble. The change wasn't obvious to everyone around him. To his friends, Tyler was still the same confident, charming, wealthy guy they had always known. But there were cracks in the facade, ones that only Tyler could see. The conversations, the parties, the endless pursuit of more. None of it held the same meaning anymore. Even the people he had once considered close were starting to feel distant. Tyler found himself looking at the world differently, questioning things he had never questioned before. Was this really all there was? Was being admired for his wealth and power truly enough to bring him happiness? Was he just another person seeking validation from a world that only cared about appearances? It all felt like a game he was tired of playing. For the first time in years, Tyler found himself wandering the streets of Los Angeles, aimlessly walking, letting his feet lead him. His usual haunts no longer felt like they belonged to him. The high-end clubs, the rooftop bars, the exclusive events, it all seemed shallow. It was as though he had been living in a bubble that was now beginning to burst. He found himself sitting in a small, unassuming cafe, the kind he would have once walked right past without a second glance. The place was nothing like the lavish spots he used to frequent. It was cozy, with mismatched chairs and the faint smell of fresh coffee in the air. As he sat by the window, sipping on a cup of dark roast, Tyler watched the world go by. People walking by with no agenda other than to live their lives. No flashing lights, no paparazzi following them, no designer labels weighing them down. For a moment, Tyler felt an unfamiliar sense of peace. His phone buzzed in his pocket, pulling him out of his thoughts. It was a message from his brother Marcus. "Hey man, how've you been? I was thinking maybe we could grab lunch this weekend? It's been a while." Tyler's finger hovered over the screen for a moment. He could easily ignore the message. He had done so many times before. But something about this moment, this new way of seeing the world, made him reconsider. Maybe Marcus had been right all along. Maybe he was missing something by surrounding himself with people who only cared about what he could give them. Tyler typed a quick reply, "Yeah, let's do it. I could use a good talk." The weekend came quickly, and Tyler met Marcus at a small Italian restaurant downtown. It wasn't the type of place that screamed luxury. The walls were adorned with simple paintings, and the tables were covered in checkered cloths. But there was a warmth to the place, a sense of comfort that made Tyler feel like he could breathe. Marcus was already there when Tyler arrived, sitting at a corner table, looking relaxed as always. His simple yet stylish outfit, a gray jacket and dark jeans, was a stark contrast to the flashy designer clothes Tyler was so used to wearing. But Tyler couldn't help but admire how comfortable Marcus seemed in his own skin. There was no need for pretenses, no need to prove anything to anyone. "Hey, man," Tyler greeted, sliding into the seat across from his brother. "It's been a while." "Yeah, it has," Marcus replied with a smile. "How's everything going?" Tyler hesitated for a moment. He didn't want to dive into the deep stuff right away, but he knew that if he was going to have an honest conversation with Marcus, it had to be real. "I don't know, man," Tyler began, setting his menu down. "I've been thinking a lot lately. About everything. My life, what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. I feel like I'm stuck." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Stuck? You're Tyler Stone. You've got everything going for you. Money, connections, a lifestyle most people can only dream of. How can you be stuck?" Tyler exhaled, leaning back in his chair. "That's just it. It's all surface level. I've spent my whole life focusing on the wrong things, Marcus. I thought I was building something meaningful, but it's just empty. People don't care about who I really am. They care about my money, my status. And I'm just tired. Tired of pretending." Marcus looked at him for a long moment, his expression thoughtful. "Ty, I've been trying to tell you this for years. You've got all this stuff, but none of it matters if you don't have real connections, real relationships. The people around you, they're not your friends. They're not there because of who you are. They're there because of what you can give them. Tyler felt a weight lift off his shoulders as he listened to his brother's words. It was everything he had been thinking, everything he had been struggling with, and hearing it from Marcus, someone who had always been grounded, felt like a validation. "I don't want to be that guy anymore," Tyler admitted. "The one who only cares about the next big thing, the next party, the next purchase. I want to be someone who has real meaning in my life. I don't know what that looks like yet, but I want to figure it out." Marcus smiled, his eyes softening. "It's not going to be easy, man. You're going to have to let go of a lot of things. The lifestyle, the people, the ego. But if you're serious about changing, it's worth it." Tyler nodded slowly, feeling a sense of clarity for the first time in a long while. "I think I'm ready," he said quietly. "I want to start over. I don't know where to begin, but I'm willing to try." As the conversation shifted to lighter topics and they enjoyed their meal together, Tyler couldn't help but feel like something had changed. For the first time in years, he wasn't just pretending to be happy. He was beginning to face the truth about himself. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about status. It was about finding meaning in the things that truly mattered. Real relationships, real connections, and living a life that felt true. And as Tyler left the restaurant that night, walking side by side with Marcus, he knew that his journey had just begun. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time, Tyler felt hopeful. He wasn't stuck anymore. He was free to become the person he had always meant to be. The weeks that followed felt like an entirely new chapter in Tyler's life. Every day felt like he was peeling back a layer of the person he had been and discovering the person he was meant to be. It wasn't easy. The old habits, luxury shopping sprees, late-night parties, and maintaining an image still lingered like whispers in the back of his mind. But with each passing day, Tyler grew stronger, more aware of the choices he could make. He started small. Instead of heading to the high-end stores on Rodeo Drive, Tyler found himself exploring places he had once looked down upon: local businesses, small cafes, independent bookstores. Places that didn't cater to the elite, places where people weren't interested in his bank account balance. He started having conversations with people who didn't know who he was and didn't care. And it was freeing. One Saturday afternoon, Tyler found himself sitting in a community center in a modest neighborhood of Los Angeles. It was a place far removed from the glamorous clubs and designer parties he was used to. The walls were lined with posters for after-school programs, job training, and local events. The scent of fresh coffee and homemade pastries filled the air, and kids ran through the hallways, laughing and playing. It was a far cry from the exclusive social circles he had once occupied, but for some reason, Tyler felt more at peace than he had in years. He had come here to volunteer. It wasn't much, just an hour or two a week to help teach a few kids basic math skills, but it was a start. He had always believed that his wealth could solve problems, but now he was learning that sometimes the greatest impact you could have was by showing up, giving your time, and being present in the lives of others. That day, he worked with a group of middle school kids who were struggling with fractions. At first, Tyler felt awkward. He didn't know how to break down something so simple. He was used to being the guy who walked into a room and everyone moved out of the way. Now, he was just another person, trying to help a group of kids grasp a basic concept. But as the lesson went on, Tyler found himself enjoying it. The kids weren't intimidated by him. They weren't trying to impress him. And when one of the boys finally got the answer right, his face lit up with pride, and Tyler felt a warm rush of joy. It wasn't because he had done something extraordinary. It was because, for the first time in a long time, Tyler felt connected to something real. He wasn't there to impress anyone, and no one was looking at him with envy or admiration. He was just there to help. By the time the session ended, Tyler found himself lingering in the center, talking to the staff and the volunteers. They didn't ask about his net worth or his social media following. They asked about his interests, his passions, and what brought him to this place. For the first time in a long time, Tyler didn't feel like a commodity or an accessory to a bigger picture. He felt like a person. That night, Tyler sat on his balcony, overlooking the city of Los Angeles. The glittering lights below seemed so distant now, almost irrelevant. His phone buzzed, breaking his train of thought. It was a message from Marcus. "Hey man, how's the volunteering going? Glad to hear you're doing something good for yourself. Let me know when you're free next weekend. I want to catch up more. Tyler smiled and typed back, "It's going great, actually. I think I'm really starting to find my groove. I'll let you know about next weekend, but I'd love to hang out soon." He set the phone down and looked out over the city again. It was funny. Before, he had been consumed by the idea of being someone, of having something. But now, he felt content with who he was becoming. He didn't need to prove anything to anyone. The life he had built, the life of privilege, of wealth, of constant attention, had been a mask. He had spent so many years perfecting it that he forgot to see the world around him. He had forgotten what truly mattered. Tyler was ready for a change, and he wasn't sure where that change would take him. But for the first time in a long time, he was excited to find out. A week later, Tyler found himself standing in front of the luxury boutique again. But this time, it was different. He wasn't here to buy anything. He wasn't here to put on a show or prove a point. He was here to face the place that had once represented everything he thought he needed. As he stepped inside, the familiar scent of polished wood and expensive leather filled his senses. The racks of designer clothes and bags were as immaculate as ever, but there was something about it that felt so distant, empty, even. The salesperson who had been there the day Keanu visited recognized him immediately. She smiled, but it wasn't the same smile from before. There was no hint of awe or admiration this time, just a friendly professionalism. "Hi, welcome back," she said, her tone warm but neutral. "Is there anything I can help you with today?" Tyler shook his head, a smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "No, just looking around." He wandered through the aisles, his eyes gliding over the rows of designer items that once made his heart race. But now, they felt unnecessary. He didn't need any of this. He didn't need the validation. He didn't need the labels. For the first time in years, Tyler felt complete without it all. As he made his way to the door, the same realization washed over him again. It wasn't the luxury or the status that would bring him peace. It wasn't the people who were impressed by his wealth. It was the real connections, the moments of honesty, and the people who valued him for who he was, not for what he had. Tyler stepped out of the boutique and into the warm Los Angeles sun. The city around him seemed to buzz with energy, but he no longer felt the pressure to keep up with it all. He had found something better, something real. The path ahead wasn't clear, but Tyler knew one thing for sure. He was no longer chasing a dream that wasn't his. He was ready to find his own. Tyler woke up to the sound of his phone buzzing on the nightstand. It was earlier than he was used to, but the moment he opened his eyes, he felt an overwhelming sense of clarity. No more distractions, no more pretending. The life he had been living, the endless pursuit of status, it all felt like a distant memory now. He checked his phone. It was a message from Marcus. "You free today? Got something I think you need to see." Tyler rubbed his eyes and smiled, typing back a quick reply, "Sure, what's up?" Marcus didn't waste any time. "Meet me at that park we used to go to when we were kids. I think it's time we talk about something important." The park. It was a place they hadn't been to in years, a small neighborhood park filled with towering oak trees and an old playground that was more nostalgic than anything else. Tyler hadn't thought about it in ages, but something about Marcus's message felt important. It was as if his brother sensed that Tyler needed this. Tyler quickly got ready, throwing on a simple t-shirt and jeans. He didn't need the fancy designer clothes anymore. The weather outside was warm, the kind of sunny afternoon that made the city feel alive. The sky was clear, the air fresh, and for the first time in a while, Tyler felt at peace. He grabbed his keys and headed out the door. When Tyler arrived at the park, Marcus was already sitting on the old wooden bench by the swings, his legs stretched out in front of him, looking relaxed as usual. The familiar sight of the park brought a sense of nostalgia. The swing set creaked with the breeze, and kids could be heard laughing in the distance. It was peaceful. Marcus looked up when Tyler approached, a small smile forming on his face. "Glad you came," he said, standing up and pulling his brother into a quick hug. "It's been too long since we've had one of these talks." Tyler chuckled. "Yeah, I think we've both been busy running in circles." He took a seat next to Marcus, his gaze wandering over the park, feeling the weight of the years they had spent chasing after things that didn't really matter. "So," Tyler said, looking over at Marcus, What's this all about? You said you had something important to share. Marcus hesitated for a moment, his gaze shifting to the ground before meeting Tyler's eyes. I've been thinking about the way you've been changing. I've watched you go from the guy who always had to be the best to someone who's starting to realize that there's more to life than just things. I'm proud of you for that. But I also think it's time to think about your future. Not just in terms of what you have, but what you want to leave behind. Tyler furrowed his brow, unsure where his brother was going with this. What do you mean? Marcus leaned forward, his hands clasped together. I mean, Tyler, you've got a chance to make a real difference. I know you've been struggling with this idea of what really matters, but I think it's time you take that step. Not just for yourself, but for the people around you. You don't have to be the guy with the biggest mansion or the flashiest car. You can be someone who leaves a legacy, who makes an impact on the world. It's all about perspective. Tyler sat quietly, absorbing his brother's words. He had always known Marcus was grounded, but hearing him say this, hearing him speak about the potential Tyler had beyond the material world, struck a chord deep within him. Legacy, Tyler repeated softly. I've never really thought about it that way. I've always been so focused on the now, on what I could get, what I could do, but I never stopped to think about what I could give. Marcus nodded. Exactly. Life isn't about what you accumulate. It's about what you leave behind. The relationships you build, the lives you impact, the change you create. You've always had a heart for helping people, even if you didn't know it. And I think it's time you embrace that side of yourself. Tyler felt the weight of the conversation settling in. There was so much truth in what Marcus was saying. He had spent years running after fleeting things, money, power, admiration. But in the process, he had lost sight of what really mattered. What if he could use his position, his resources, to truly help others? What if he could be the kind of person who inspired others, who made a real difference, not just in his own life, but in the lives of people who needed it the most? Thanks, Marcus, Tyler said, his voice soft but sincere. I think you're right. I've been running from the wrong things. I don't know exactly what that legacy looks like yet, but I want to find it. I want to do something that actually makes a difference. Marcus smiled, a proud, knowing smile. I've always believed in you, Ty. It's about time you started believing in yourself. Over the next few weeks, Tyler threw himself into a new kind of work. He started reaching out to organizations that focused on youth programs, education, and social justice. He wasn't sure where it would take him, but he felt an undeniable pull to use his resources for good. He wasn't looking to be some kind of hero. He wasn't looking for recognition. But he knew that he could make an impact, and that thought filled him with purpose. He began volunteering more, partnering with nonprofits, and finding ways to use his network to support causes that truly mattered. Through it all, Tyler found himself reconnecting with parts of himself he had long ignored. He was no longer the wealthy, superficial man he had been. He was someone else now, someone grounded, someone driven by purpose. And though the road ahead wasn't always easy, Tyler felt more certain than ever that he was on the right path. As Tyler worked with these organizations, helping in whatever ways he could, he found a new sense of fulfillment. The days spent volunteering at the community center and the weekends working with underserved youth filled him with a sense of pride that luxury shopping never could. The connections he was building now were real. These weren't relationships based on what he had or could offer. These were bonds formed on genuine respect, understanding, and shared goals. It wasn't just about giving money anymore. It was about giving his time, his effort, and his heart to something bigger than himself. And though Tyler's life had changed in ways he couldn't have predicted, one thing was clear. The legacy he was building now would be the one that truly mattered. Tyler's life had been completely redefined in the months that followed his conversation with Marcus. Each day felt like a small victory as he moved further away from the superficial life he once clung to. It wasn't an easy transformation. There were moments of doubt, moments when old habits and insecurities tried to creep back in. But Tyler remained determined. As he continued his work with the youth organizations, something remarkable began to happen. Word of Tyler's commitment to making a difference started to spread. The impact he was having on the kids he worked with was undeniable, and it didn't go unnoticed. One day, he received an unexpected message, this time from Keanu Reeves. Tyler's heart skipped a beat as he read the message. Hey, Tyler. It's Keanu. I've been hearing about the work you've been doing lately, and I have to say, I'm impressed. I know we didn't have the best first meeting, but I'd love to catch up and see how I can support your efforts. Let me know if you're free sometime. Tyler couldn't believe it. The same actor who had been the subject of his mockery months ago was now reaching out to him, not for fame or publicity, but because he genuinely wanted to support the work Tyler was doing. It was surreal. After a few exchanges, they arranged to meet at a local cafe. When Tyler walked in, he spotted Keanu sitting at a corner table, his usual calm, humble demeanor radiating. The man looked the same, modest in a simple jacket and jeans, not the kind of figure you'd expect to see in the spotlight. Keanu, Tyler said, offering a sincere smile as he approached the table. Keanu looked up, his expression warm and unassuming. Tyler, it's good to see you. I've been following your progress, and I'm genuinely moved by the change you've made. You've really turned things around. Tyler sat down across from him, still processing the reality of the situation. It's been a journey. Honestly, I didn't expect anything like this. I'm just trying to do the right thing now. Keanu nodded. I get it. Sometimes, life has a way of pushing us to make choices we never expected to make. You're doing something powerful, something that can change lives. They spent the next hour talking about Tyler's journey, about the work he had been doing with the community center and the initiatives he was passionate about. Keanu shared stories of his own charitable work, his philosophy on life, and how he had learned to find fulfillment in helping others rather than seeking the next big thing for himself. As they spoke, Tyler was struck by how genuine Keanu was. There was no air of superiority, no need to impress. It wasn't about fame or fortune for him. It was about doing good and inspiring others to do the same. Keanu's words resonated deeply with Tyler, reinforcing everything he had come to realize on his own journey. Before they parted ways, Keanu surprised Tyler once again. I want to help however I can, Keanu said. I'm in a position to make things happen, and if you ever need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. Let's join forces and create something even bigger. You have the heart and the vision, and I believe together, we can make a massive impact. Tyler was speechless for a moment. I don't even know what to say. This means more than you can imagine. Keanu smiled, standing up to leave. Just keep doing what you're doing, Tyler. The world needs more people like you. As Tyler left the cafe, he felt a wave of inspiration wash over him. He had been given a rare opportunity, a chance to work with someone who had truly walked the path of humility and compassion, someone whose heart was as genuine as his talent. It was a reminder that no matter where you were in life, there was always room for growth, for change, and for the kind of work that made a difference. In the weeks that followed, Tyler and Keanu continued to meet, brainstorming ways to amplify the work they were doing for underprivileged youth and communities in need. They began planning large-scale charity events, working together to raise awareness for educational programs, mentorship opportunities, and the importance of giving back. Tyler's heart grew fuller as he realized that this was the purpose he had been searching for all along. Through their collaborations, they created opportunities for young people to learn valuable skills, to develop a sense of self-worth, and to understand that they had the power to shape their own futures. They built partnerships with local schools, business leaders, and community organizations, forming a network of individuals committed to making real change in the lives of those who needed it most. Tyler also continued to support the community center, now with more resources and energy than ever. He focused on mentoring the kids there, helping them not only with their schoolwork but also with life skills, how to dream, how to build resilience, and how to believe in themselves, no matter where they came from. As the months passed, Tyler started seeing the impact of his efforts. The kids he worked with were growing, both academically and emotionally. They were gaining confidence, taking risks, and, most importantly, believing in their own potential. Tyler could see the difference he was making, and for the first time in his life, he felt truly fulfilled. But the most unexpected part of this journey was the ripple effect it created. The more Tyler gave, the more he received. He wasn't just changing the lives of the kids he mentored. He was inspiring others, his friends, his family, and even strangers, to look inward and ask themselves what they could do to contribute to the world. Tyler had learned that impact didn't come from wealth or prestige. It came from genuine relationships, from giving without expecting anything in return, and from being willing to step into uncomfortable spaces to help others. And as he looked around at the changes happening in his life and in the world around him, he knew he was on the right path. His legacy, the one he had started to build from the ground up, wasn't one of designer labels or fast cars. It was one of compassion, connection, and transformation. Tyler wasn't just changing his life. He was helping change the lives of others, and together, they were creating a wave of hope that would ripple out far beyond anything he could have imagined. Months passed, and Tyler's life had transformed in ways he never could have predicted. He was no longer the man who walked into a luxury store, flaunting his wealth and judging others. He was someone different now, someone grounded in purpose, connected to a community, and committed to making a lasting difference. The community center had become more than just a project. It was his new home. Tyler spent his days there, not just mentoring and volunteering, but also working with other leaders in the community to expand their outreach programs. Together, they'd formed a collective of businesses, schools, and organizations committed to providing resources for underprivileged youth, focusing on education, mentorship, and life skills. One evening, as Tyler was sitting at his desk reviewing some proposals for a new program, he received a message from Marcus. "I think it's time for us to talk about something big." Tyler smiled, his heart swelling with gratitude. Marcus had been by his side through it all. The brotherly bond they'd always shared was stronger than ever. They'd been through ups and downs, but now it felt like they were walking side by side in this journey together. The following weekend, Tyler and Marcus sat down over lunch at a local diner, the same place they'd visited when they were younger. They had shared countless meals here, from childhood birthdays to late-night hangouts. It felt fitting that they would meet here now. "All right, Marcus," Tyler said, setting his coffee down. "You said we needed to talk. What's going on?" Marcus leaned forward, his face serious. "It's about the future. What you're doing is amazing, Tyler, but I think it's time to expand. I've been talking to some people in the city government, people in the nonprofit world, and they're starting to take notice of what you're building here. You have the potential to take this to a whole new level." Tyler raised an eyebrow. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting," Marcus said with a grin, "that we create a foundation, a real one, something that can give back on a larger scale, nationally, even globally. You've built the groundwork already. People are watching you, and they believe in what you're doing. You have the power to mobilize resources, build partnerships, and make a true, lasting impact. You don't need to limit yourself to one community center. You could create a movement." Tyler sat back in his chair, his mind racing. It wasn't just a thought anymore. It was a vision that could change the lives of millions of kids around the world. A movement that could inspire a new generation to break free from the cycles of poverty, to believe in their potential, and to know that they had the power to change their futures. "I've been thinking about it," Tyler admitted. "I've always wanted to leave a legacy, but I didn't know what it would look like. Now I see that this is it. It's not about me anymore. It's about everyone else. The kids who need guidance, the families who need help, the communities who deserve a chance." Marcus's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Exactly. You've already started something that's growing. This could be the next big thing. And it's not just about the programs you run. It's about shifting the mindset. You have the opportunity to show people that success isn't just measured by what you have. It's about what you give." Tyler nodded slowly, feeling a sense of purpose flood over him. For the first time in a long time, he felt like he had a clear direction, a mission that he could pour his heart into. It wasn't just about changing his life anymore. It was about helping others change theirs. "Let's do it," Tyler said, his voice steady. "Let's build this foundation. Let's take everything we've learned, everything we've worked for, and let's give it all back. It's time to make this a movement." In the months that followed, Tyler and Marcus began to lay the foundation for the new initiative. They started building a team of dedicated individuals, social entrepreneurs, educators, mentors, and business leaders, all united by a common goal: to provide opportunities for underprivileged youth, helping them break free from cycles of poverty and giving them the tools they needed to succeed in life. The foundation focused not only on education and mentorship, but also on providing scholarships, career training, and a platform for young people to pursue their dreams. They created summer programs that introduced kids to different career paths, bringing in successful individuals from various industries to share their experiences and offer guidance. Tyler found himself traveling more often, meeting with philanthropists, community leaders, and government officials who were eager to support the Foundation's mission. Each conversation brought new opportunities, new partnerships, and new ideas for how they could expand their impact. Through it all, Keanu remained a trusted ally, offering both financial support and strategic guidance. Together, they organized fundraising events and awareness campaigns, using their combined influence to garner support for the Foundation's initiatives. Tyler also continued working directly with the kids, volunteering at local schools and mentoring young people one-on-one. As the Foundation grew, so did Tyler's sense of fulfillment. He no longer felt like the man who once craved validation through luxury and status symbols. He had found something far more meaningful, a sense of purpose that transcended anything material. One evening, as Tyler stood at the podium during one of the Foundation's largest charity events, he looked out at the crowd of supporters, donors, and volunteers who had come together to make a difference. The room was filled with energy, people who believed in the cause and were willing to invest in its success. Tyler's voice shook slightly as he spoke. "When I first started this journey, I had no idea where it would take me. I was lost in a world of wealth and materialism, thinking that's what defines success. But I've learned that true success isn't about what we own. It's about what we give. It's about the impact we make in the lives of others." The room fell silent as Tyler's words resonated. He continued, his conviction growing. "This foundation is about changing lives, creating opportunities, fostering growth, and empowering the next generation. And I believe, with all my heart, that together, we can make a world where no child is left behind." The applause that followed was deafening. Tyler looked around, his heart swelling with gratitude. He had come full circle, from the wealthy, arrogant man who mocked others to the man standing before them, committed to making a real difference. The journey had been long, and at times, it had been difficult. But every step, every challenge, had led him here, to this moment. And he knew, without a doubt, that this was just the beginning. His legacy was no longer about the designer labels or the flashy cars. It was about the lives he had touched, the changes he had sparked, and the future he had helped create. Tyler's story wasn't just about redemption. It was about transformation, and he was just getting started.